Welcome to this James the Bike Guy, where today we're checking out a really common and very popular dual sport hybrid, a bike that you could use on the rail trail, around the neighborhood with your kids and family, or even to commute to work. So we're going to go into some of the features and designs of this 2022 Trek Dual Sport 1, the entry-level version in Trek's lineup. And then we'll find out exactly what it weighs. So if this kind of thing is interesting to you, be sure to hit that subscribe button and let's check out this bike together. The Trek Dual Sport series has been around for quite some time now, and it offers almost SUV-like performance. And by that I mean this bike is really designed as a great all-around bike to do just about everything, a jack of all trades but a master of none. And something that if somebody was just looking for a bike that would have a reasonable amount of capability, this would come into play. And by that, there's a couple of things going on here. So this bike is going to sit right in Trek's Dual Sport lineup. Now this happens to be the Dual Sport 1, which means it's the most basic as far as parts and componentry, but offers great value to get into the bike. And then Trek is going to have two other bikes adjacent to this. So in the hybrid series, Trek also has their FX series, which they make a FX1, which is the entry-level fitness commuter style bike. And then they also have something called a Verve, which is a much more upright, comfort-oriented bike, also a Verve 1. And between all those bikes, when you have one that has a 1 indicated on it, it means it's going to come with those lower spec parts, but a similar frame to the bikes above in the same ethos. And this Dual Sport 1 is made out of what they call their Gold Alpha aluminum. And that means this has shaped and butted tubing, has internal cable routing, and because it's a dual sport, it's going to run a suspension fork on the front end of the bike. And so this suspension fork is something called an SR Suntour NEX fork. It uses a coil spring inside of there to help suspend you, and then it's going to have 63 millimeters of travel. By travel, I mean that's the distance here that the fork can compress while you're riding, so you get some bump absorption up through the front. And then as you drive to the back of the bike, this aluminum frame is going to be set up with mounts for racks and fenders. You also have a spot down in the frame for what they call their Duo Trap mount. That little spot allows you to add a Bluetooth sensor to be able to measure speed and cadence. On the back, you'll have a spot for a direct mount kickstand to help hold the bike up, and it just gives a pretty nice overall look to the bike. And then the next thing you'll notice on a dual sport style bike is it's going to run tires and extra frame width, where the tire's a bit thicker than that FX style of bike, a little bit narrower than say the Verve, but also has a little bit of extra tread to help give good control when you get on some loose stuff. So with a dual sport bike like this, the majority of the time likely you would want to be pedaling on pavement or hard packed dirt, but you could take it on the occasional mountain bike trail or hiking trail, so long as it doesn't get too muddy or too rocky. And that's essentially where this falls in as a great place to start if you're looking for a bike with a lot of different intentions. And going back to that SUV analogy, you end up with an SUV with all-wheel drive, lots of room to be able to take to the store, and then some off-road capability for when you go camping or to have fun with the family. Componentry on the Dual Sport 1 has gotten a major upgrade for 2022, and in fact the gearing has gone down in number of speeds but up in the ease of being able to use it. So for 2022 they've now gone where there's a small and a large ring, so 2 rings up front versus the 3 on the previous generation, and then they're running 8 speeds on the back of the bike through a cassette. This is an additional gear as well as a much better drive mechanism for the back end of the bike. So that gives this bike an overall of 16 speeds rather than the previous generation's 21. But how they make this work and how it works better is with the 2 gears up front and the spread that we have out back, you essentially end up with almost the same gear range, but considerably less shifting to make it all work together. And that means it's going to be much easier and much more efficient to use. Now in the back, it's shifted using a Shimano rear derailleur, a Shimano Altus, and then it goes through that Hyperglide cassette that we were talking about. And this cassette is an 11 to 32 tooth range, driving forward to that 2x crankset with aluminum arms, and this is going to be a 46 30 tooth in the front ends. That gearing, like I said before, essentially means that you've got the same or very close to similar gearing as before. And then when you come to the handlebars, that's where it's going to make it a lot easier. Now the handlebar setup has shifting on the right hand side for the rear gears and then the left hand side for the front gears. So these shift independent, but the left hand side you've got a low, which is to climb up the hill, the 1, and then 2 for going fast or going down the hill. And those are operated with a thumb or index finger to shift it through. And then going to the right, you would shift this totally independently, but now you have 8 small adjustments to make it shift a little bit easier, a little bit harder. And integrated into that shifter is going to be some integrated brake levers. So these brake levers come down to a mechanical disc brake. So super easy maintenance to it, mechanical disc brake. So instead of a traditional rim brake where it would have grabbed onto the rim, it's now down at the center where the hub is to keep it out of the way and also give you a bunch better braking performance. The cockpit componentry on the bike is designed around being comfortable for long days out pedaling or just a quick cruise around the neighborhood. So the handlebar itself is going to be a steel handlebar. You can see it's got a bit of a rise to it where it comes up in the center, comes out to the sides, and that's connecting through an aluminum stem to the steer tube going down to your front fork. So that's going to keep the connection all together with a threadless setup. And one thing I like to see is that they're using some ergo style grips. So this has a flat portion, so when your palm goes onto the handlebar, nice area to grip, good comfortable setup. And then you're gonna drive back to a Bontrager Sport saddle mounted up on this alloy seat post. Seat post is a 2-bolt setup, making it really easy to adjust the angle, get it just right for you. And this Sport saddle is a pretty good upgrade over the previous generation. I actually find this to be fairly comfortable. So the cockpit there, no particular frills to it, but with those ergo grips and the newer saddle, it's really dialed in the comfort for the 2022 model. Finally rolling this bike down the road is some Bontrager connection rims and some GR1 comp tires. Now the wheel and tire combination is interesting here because this is a 700C wheel, which basically means the wheel diameter is the same as both a 29er mountain bike as well as a 700C road bike. Now where that gets a little bit different, tire height is a function of width. So you'll notice this tire is nowhere near quite as big as you'd see on a mountain bike, but you do have 40 millimeters of width to the tire and this file tread setup to it. So the GR1 comp tire is going to be designed around rolling pretty fast on the road, but some of those packed dirt scenarios we were talking about earlier, it's going to work out real nice. Now the wheels are double-walled section wheels from Bontrager. The connection setup uses stainless steel spokes with J-bend going to alloy hubs on the front and the rear. Now both of these hubs are quick release where you can just fold that down, the wheel will come out nice and easy. So if you got to pack it into something or you got a small spot in your apartment, wheels can drop off and easy to store. The actual weight of the Trek Dual Sport 1 size medium comes in and weighs 29.46 pounds. Thanks for joining me to check out this 2021 Trek Dual Sport 1. Go ahead and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. While you're at it, be sure to hit that subscribe button and don't forget to browse the channel to check out more videos like this on all things bikes and gear.